Hey there, and welcome to the Oz Shift Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Trucks, and we today have Dr. Chalmers on the show. Now, this guy is a wealth of knowledge in a lot of different areas, and he's got some cool thoughts. But one of the big things we dive into today is a company he's actually in the process of developing, and it's going into the world. It's all around the realm of how do we actually handle and fix, if not solve, the opioid crisis. There's a big opioid crisis of people that are overdosing. About 100,000+ people, I think 107,000 people died just last year alone from overdose. And this is something that can be fixed. He has a unique way of how he has found it can be fixed. One that I never thought about. I have family members who for sure fit into the realm where it's a risk factor for them to potentially overdose because life is not easy. And so at the end of the day, I know that the work he's doing can help people. And whether it may be you or someone like this is a good episode to tune into to hear some things about what we can do as a society, but also with this specific methodology and some interesting tools, we'll call it, that actually can solve this faster than we thought possible. So hop into today's episode, and I'll see you over there. All right, everybody, we are here. I'm going to give you guys a little precursor. If you notice my energy is a little bit wonky, it's because I've had a hell of a day, folks. It has nothing to do with you or our time together, but it might be a good thing. Maybe it gets me to a point of like having some weird, actual, cool, even better questions come out of our conversation. But you know about the episode. We're going to hop right in with Dr. Chalmers. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you being patient with my crazy and this stupid technology issue I had today. Hey, people, sometimes the world wants to get you down, but you just can't let it. You just can't let it, man. Let's dive into this conversation. I'm actually excited to talk to you. I got obviously before we met you guys, we just met like a few minutes ago. I got a little bit of a background to what he works on and the area that he works in and what he does. That's not an accidental area. And it's interesting when I have family that we'll talk more about, but I have family that have experienced or probably a person you could actually help, we'll call it. But I start the podcast with a simple question. I'm walking around town. I sit down at a coffee shop. I sit next to you. I don't know you. You, for some reason, feel compelled to turn and start talking to me. In your personal opinion, why should I listen to you?
Oh, that's great. So typically it's going to be a health issue. So we're going to go through, like I do a ton of stuff that normal medicine doesn't do very well. We do hormone therapy. We do all sorts of stuff for cardiac prevention, stuff like that. So typically, if I'm going to have a conversation with somebody, it's going to be something that's going to be wildly important to their health and wellness. So that's typically it. The big thing now is my goal is to end the opioid epidemic using cannabis and ketamine. And a lot of people have either the wrong idea or they don't know very much about the tools that we have to actually push back against this epidemic.
Interesting. So my always thought goes, okay, this is an interesting thing. We get down the pipeline. If I decided to say, hey, you know what? I like to race ponies and teach them how to, race, I don't know, right, be ridden by chickens, right? There's something that you go like, that's crazy. It's a unique thing. How'd you get to doing that, right? So in the area of what you're doing, I'd love to know the journey that you went through to make this something where you could come on a podcast openly and go like, this is an area where I feel confident as a man, I can end this thing. So what was your journey towards, through, or experience with all this?
So it's actually kind of funny. So I'm the medical component of the easiest way to describe it is like a VC company. What we do is we take a look at deals and stuff like that. Well, we work with a ton of NFL athletes because NFL athletes get brought horrible deals and they need somebody to be like, this is a bad deal. And so that's what we do. Well, somebody brought us one about cannabis. And it was funny because when Nate brought it to us, we were like, all right, whatever. He's like, but there's a lot of medical use. And so my partner was like, well, that's your job. You got to look into that. So I look into it and I found the most unbelievable statistics on what you can do for health and wellness. But 64% of the time you can alleviate pain just like opioids. So you can replace opioids 64% of the time. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I was 100% had the wrong opinion of this thing. And so as we started kind of walking down that and finding out how unbelievably beneficial it is and how well it covers pain, I started thinking, why is everybody not using this more? And so we found out that it was basically because if you smoke, you get way too much. And if you're vaping or something like that, there's damage from there. So we use a sublingual technology. So you don't have to smoke it or vape it or eat it, but it's dosable. So now we can cut it
Mm,
up and you can take a little bit and you don't get high, but you have no pain. Like that same strip,
mm,
I talk about this in my TED talk, that same strip I cut and gave it to my 10-year-old when he had 6 screws and a plate removed from his arm. When he came home from the hospital,
mm.
that's all we gave him were those little cannabis strips. Never got high, never had any issues with pain. We used it for, I
Interesting.
use it all in my clinic all the time for like, my mom broke her sternum in a car wreck. We gave it to her so she could actually
Yeah.
relax and breathe. So as we started learning more and more about this, it was like, this is something that more people need to know about because we have to do something about the opioid epidemic. And so that's kind of where we
Yeah. Yeah.
started
It's
on that.
kind of, yeah. My sister actually, she's an addict, man. We half the time, more than half the time, I don't even know where she's at. She doesn't respond to stuff. We don't see her. Like, so it's crazy because this is one of the things I go, man, it'd be nice if we could find some way to help her. It's a journey. So in your journey of doing this, I guess my question like goes like, why did this become something where you're passionately connected to it? Because you could obviously chose to do anything. Was it somewhere like did you have like previous experience in this realm? Or was it all of a sudden just an idea that hey, I got a solution with this. This is a demographic that needs my help. I can help them. I dove in, or like, did you have like maybe a childhood thing, or like a friend, or like what connects your heart to this work?
Well, so it's kind of funny because I do have a connection to it. So, but that's not my connection to it is less of why I do it, but I'll add that.
Mm,
So I was in a car wreck in '07 and
mm,
broke my left foot, my left femur, shattered the car window with my face, massive concussion.
mm,
I'd have my femur surgically repaired. And so I've got
mm.
all this metal in me. When I came home, I had a tremendous concussion. And they told me, you broke your femur. You need to take 2 of these opioids, when you have pain. If you let it get ahead of you, it's going to be horrible. So I was like, all right, cool. So I remember I had this massive concussion. So I go home and I take 2 and I forgot. So I took 2 more and I
Mm,
forgot and I took 2 more.
mm.
And
Oh
I
wow.
ended up waking up in a pool of vomit and being like, oh, had I not thrown up, I'd be dead. And so
Yeah.
that was some of mine. And my cousin actually was injured, had surgery, was given opioids, became addicted to them, and then ended up dying from it. So
Wow.
that's my personal connection to it. But the reason I'm doing it is because I have the connections and I have the people and I have the drive to do it. And the thing is that if I don't do this, then I feel like if you can do something to really help people and you don't, I think that's a tragedy. And so that
I agree.
since I can, I'm going to, and I'm very passionate about. I understand how hard it is to be in the position that we're in, and so it's like, okay, we got to do the very best we can because there's not a whole lot of people who have the access to the stuff we have access to. So we have to get this done.
Yeah, I get that. Why don't people have access to information? Because this is something where you go, okay, if this is the case, this existed, been around for a while. Like, why is this something that not many, well, almost no people know about? How come this is something I'm just first, hearing about?
Um, well, first of all, with the cannabis, it's been demonized as almost as bad as you possibly could demonize anything, and so people are very
Yeah.
weary of it and they don't like it, and so that's part of it. The ketamine thing, we didn't. Not a lot of nobody knew that ketamine could break addictions 85% of the time, from until like 10 years ago or something like that. So it's brand new stuff. We've been using ketamine for 40 years or something like that. We use it. It's the very most used drug for pediatric surgery, so it's very very safe. But we didn't know
Mhm.
it had this dissociative function where it would actually break addiction, and so we're starting to bring that out. And so that's one of those things that there's ketamine clinics here and there, and they're great. But if you have an addictions, go find one. But we actually have a sublingual technology that we can actually put the ketamine on those strips and then we can get that out. And so that's one of the ways we have that we're going to start getting this out to more people. But
Got it.
there's just not a whole lot of people who have access to the docs and the pharmacies and the stuff to get it out. It's just more time to get on podcasts. People learn about it. The greater the demand will grow, and the more people who will get helped.
Makes sense. And in your own words, what is ketamine? Because I'm hearing that, I'm going, I think I know what it is, but I don't know 100% what it is. I feel like hearing the name of what it is, I'm like, I probably shouldn't put it in my body, but it sounds like I should. So do you mind breaking down, like, what exactly is ketamine?
So ketamine is used for pain, and it's also used to knock people out. Now, here's the thing. So opioids work on various parts of your brain, including the pons. The pons is responsible for autonomic respiration. It's the reason you breathe while you're asleep. So if you have too many
Okay.
opioids, it shuts that off and you stop breathing and you die. So that's how opioids kill people the vast majority of the time. So ketamine
Yeah.
doesn't hit that spot of your brain, so you keep breathing and you're fine. And so that's why it's so safe. Now that's why we've been using it. The WHO is it's one of those mandatory medicines to have around because they use it for surgery so much and it's so safe.
Hmm.
So it's been around for a while. It's just like I said, it's an NMDA receptor. So basically, what it does, this is not how it works. It's the easiest way to explain it. Let's say that your brain is a string and it's all kind of tangled up. The NMDA kind of takes it and just kind of straightens it back out. So so what you do is you do kind of like a ketamine cycle where you go down, you're going to do it multiple times within a 5-day period, and it helps flush all that stuff out. One of the guys
Okay.
we were talking to told me that he was so addicted to cocaine that he was crying about his addiction to cocaine while doing coke. And he said the 5-day sessions, he was like, when he came out, he was like, he told me it's been a year. He goes, it's not that I have more willpower. He goes, I just have zero desire to touch cocaine after those 5 days.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So how does it work? It's like a brain thing, and like how does it actually make that happen? Because that sounds awesome. Like that's not like it could legitimately change the entire world. Like if that's the case, like it could quite literally almost overnight fix things. So how does that become something that we didn't know about? And how do you actually make that more aware? I get that we go on podcasts and talk about it, but is there another vehicle if it's that good and positive? How do we get that to get traction faster?
Well, so we started a charity called Citizen Well, or so citizen-well.org. And so what we're doing is we're using that to fund not only research but treatment. And we're going to start with our veterans. That's my goal is to start with the veterans, and so we can knock out PTSD, we can knock out any addictions, and then it's one of the best things you can use for depression. So it'll help our vets out, and then that as we start doing that, my goal is to record all the videos of them before and after, and then kind of put those out so that everybody can start sharing on social media what this stuff can do if done properly. So that's the way we're kind of trying to get it out, is just talk to as many people as we can. And then I know a ton of business owners, medium and large size business owners. And so we're going to go and we're going to try to get them to come out and give information to their employees and join us in the fight against the opioid epidemic. So hopefully we'll get some really good communication out in the next 6-10 months.
Got you. What becomes the biggest barrier you think you're facing though? So if you get to go take this to the world, like when you guys sit back in your meetings and think about getting out there, what's the thing you go, man, we're gonna have to climb this hill?
Oh, there's lots and lots and lots of hills. So the biggest thing is that we have a Delta 8 product that's on a sublingual strip that we've been using for all of the pain. Delta 8 is only legal in 32 states, and from what we're understanding, they're trying to make it illegal in all 50. So
why?
I don't really know. I think the thing is that they regulate it. So Delta 8 is psychoactive. So if you take enough of it, you'll get high.
Yeah.
But the government doesn't like that. It's cool with alcohol to mess your brain up to the point where you can't drive, but it's not okay with cannabis, even though it's wildly safer than alcohol. So I don't know, like that's their thing. So it's going to end up going medical. And when it does go medical, our push is going to be for an opioid parity bill. So as far as doctors go, anything you can write an opioid for, you can write cannabis for. And so if we're there, it's like, look, that's our big thing, right? That's where we're going to stop a lot of this addiction problem, is from these prescriptions that people are getting. So if we can just get there, we're good. But all the legality of that is ridiculously difficult. So like right now, I can't take, like in California, we were partnered up with a really, really awesome, the Falcon. They're a really, really great grow group. And we have strips there. It's illegal for me to take them across the border to Nevada, where cannabis is also legal. So you can't transport this stuff very well at all. So legally, and so that's a giant hurdle we got to get across. And then we got to learn how to ship out like all the pharmaceutical stuff to try to get it to people. So there's a giant amount of legal issues we got to burn through.
Yeah, a lot going on. That's crazy. It is crazy how I like all the stuff that it definitely, like, it's usually safer. Like you hear about a lot of drunk driving, but you don't hear a lot of like people that are high getting into trouble. So it's crazy. It's all like blocked off, but it could be so useful. The fact that you're finding ways that it could definitively actually solve the opioid crisis. Almost would be like things like conspiracy theorists. If I go tin hat style on them one time, it's like they must like the fact that it's making a bunch of money and people are all addicted to this stuff. It's got to be something of a reason the world wouldn't push in a direction to actually have this be solved.
Well, and that's hard. Because there's so much money in opioids, and the government gets so much money from pharmaceutical companies. It's hard to not be like, well, this is why. But I really think that if we can, as a country, come together and like, let's have another talk about this. let's legitimately tell the
Yeah.
politicians that we do actually want this, then I think that would be a bigger
Mhm.
piece because it's so stigmatized right now. The very best option against
Yeah.
opioids, everybody's scared of. That's the rough problem, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know why. Like at some point it got demonized in the past, right? I may be crazy. I was told there was I read, I don't know where it was, like that the steel companies did it because I guess hemp back in the day used to be stuff that could be like definitively like useful and like almost as strong as steel. So steel goes, oh wait. Which I don't know why. We're not building buildings with hemp. And then that turned into something where it took over and took out, we'll call it the marijuana became an issue. It's all tied together in the same plant. So it all got shut down. But like you start finding out more and more how useful it is. Even to the point where now we're talking about how certain psychedelic could be great for the body and the brain. There's like even whole new Netflix documentaries. And I wonder when the world decides to move and go, hey, let's open, like you said, the discussion on this and actually come back to the table.
Yeah, that's I think gonna be a fun time. It's funny because I was talking to a buddy of mine who's a politician. He's a federal legislator, and I
Yeah.
said, I go, hey man, if we get this really big, like if everybody's on board, we get all these teams, all this. If we get everybody on board, I go, will you write me the bill to decriminalize cannabis? And he was like, no. He goes, I'll find you someone too. He was like, I'll talk to Mitch. He
Hmm.
was like, but because I've got guys who would never vote for me again. And I was like, I
Wow.
don't think that's accurate because I have looked so hard to find somebody who's against medical cannabis, and I can't find
Yeah.
anybody who's like, no, I don't want my doctor to have more options that are safer for me. Like, no one says that.
Yeah.
So, like,
No, not outwardly. Not like maybe they're quiet thoughts, but nobody says it probably outwardly yet.
yeah. So it's one of those things that I'm like, all right, well, why can't we do this? And I think that's why I want the national discussion because we're like, no, we're all good with our doctors having more options. I think that it would
Yeah.
finally come through because our politicians, and this, I'm not trying to say this is a mean thing, they're windsocks.
Mhm.
If the wind blows this way,
Yeah.
that's
They're
what they
going.
do, which is what they're supposed to do. They're
Yeah.
representatives of the people.
Yeah.
So we just got to blow that wind.
Yeah.
That we just got to tell them where we want it to go.
I like that. That's true. I mean, it makes sense to why we get in these podcasts and have these conversations about it because then you go discussion wise. But I think there's also somewhere, I guess, if somebody doesn't have an experience with this or a tie to it or a connection to it, it doesn't become a torch you want to carry. Like it's like it hasn't affected me yet. But I think the problem is if you have that mentality is well, when you do need it, it's not going to be there,
Right.
right? So if you wait until it becomes a thing where you need it, it's like it's a little bit too late. It's like you can't get insurance after the accident, bro. You kind of want to take care of getting it beforehand.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. That's why we're trying to get it out now because we've got I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and with the amount of surgeries I've had, and my kids are just as accident prone as I am. So I got to make
Yeah.
sure that they don't have any issues. I see all their little friends. It's like we got to do something to protect these guys. Just give more options so that they don't end up being addicted to stuff. We lost 107,000 people last year to opioid overdose.
Really,
Yeah.
that's great. And it ain't going anywhere, huh? It's not slowing
No,
down.
it's getting worse.
Yeah, it's getting worse. I mean, it's just a whole other discussion on why it gets worse, but it is. Maybe it's more readily available. What's crazy too is like I don't. How do they get it? Like, how do you actually? Because it's only made in labs, right? How do people actually get access to this stuff?
Oh, it's there's
If it's that much of a problem,
Oh, there's so much
deadly.
on the streets. So opioids are going to
Really?
include your heroin, your fentanyl, all those other things. And so what ended up happening
Yeah.
is, so what happens in the country right now is if you get addicted, if you get a prescription and you get addicted, what ends up happening is they go, oh, you're
Yeah.
addicted. We're not going to prescribe anymore. Well, then you kind of have to go to the street. And so you find your guy who sells it, and then he's getting it from wherever he's getting it. And a lot of this stuff's coming across from Mexico. Well, and what happens is that
Mm,
so the way it works is fentanyl is 175 times as strong as morphine. So what ends up happening
mm,
is they try to take a little bit of fentanyl and spread it out into lots of pills, which you can do if you have really sophisticated equipment. Ththese guys don't,
mhm.
and that's why people are dying
Yeah.
from fentanyl is because they're trying to get something and they're killing them.
Yeah. That's too much in one pill.
Yeah,
Not spread around. Oh, that's crazy. That is so scary, man. It's and the thing is, the way I look at it, I'm sure there probably is, maybe not clearly and easily, but there are people who actually could benefit from it. Like they may need it in the situation that they're experiencing, but then all of a sudden you abuse the thing and it becomes a problem. And then now it's an addiction. And that's scary too, man. It's because the idea that it's like you can't break the addiction and it might kill you. And like you said, your guy, he's sitting there crying with the issue with this drug and he's still taking the drug in the middle of crying about
yeah,
it. Like that's a lock-in, man. People, because I think it's like an emotional thing. Because these people got kids, they got moms, dads, uncles, cousins, brothers. My uncle passed away. He was an addict, and I think he overdosed one night. It was crazy because his mom and dad are like good church going Christian people, and like, dang, like it hits close to home when you see it happen. Man, I like that you're talking about this though, because it needs to open up discussion. Do you ever get like people that are pissed at you openly, or that hasn't happened yet?
That hasn't happened very much. I say lots of other things that piss people off. So like in the health
Yeah.
and wellness space, it's pretty easy because I say things like cholesterol levels in your blood work are absolutely worthless as far as cardiovascular function health goes, and they are. They're just good for writing statin drugs. However, if you want a calcium CT and echocardiogram, that'll give you all the cardiovascular health information you need for the next 5 years. Why we don't run those when we
Mm.
run lipid tests is I have zero understanding of why people do that. So stuff like that, when I say stuff like that, that irritates people. So, I say plenty of other things. They
Yeah.
haven't yelled at me about the ketamine or the cannabis openly yet, but I guarantee you that's coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, and I think it's the that actually is the mark of whether your message is getting some headway is how many people dislike you and get mad at you. I think there's something to that. Like I every once in a while I get weird pissed off messages from people and I go, oh, I'm doing good, right? Because it means that somebody saw it and it means I'm climbing the totem pole. Because if you don't climb the totem pole, no one can see you throw rocks at you. So got to keep climbing, man. Where do you, if you were to say perfect world, you extrapolate this stuff out, you reach the people you want to reach. What do you envision? Like if you solve this, what does that look like to you? Like how does life look? What because I want people who are hearing this to go. It's not just some guy trying to say I saw got a solution it could work. My assumption is you have an actual vision of what life looks like for some of these people. I'd love for you to like tap into that part so people can hear the heart of it.
It's one of those things that when you're able to help somebody with something that no one else has been able to help them with, like we do this with Lyme's, we do this with, you know, ulcerative colitis and stuff like that. When you finally fix something that you watch their world get so much better, and it
Mm,
is the most addictive thing you'll ever do. Really help somebody with a problem that they are desperate for. It is the
yeah,
greatest thing you can do, and I want to be able to do that as much as I can and spread that around with as many people as I can. So I see that we can emanate out from Dallas. There's other places. There's places in California. We can do a lot of online
mm,
stuff. So I see this growing throughout the United States. What I'd like to see is 5 years from now, the 20, 27, 28, 29, somewhere in there, we cut the number of deaths in half. And I think that we're going to climb up
mm,
to about 150,000 before we really start getting a handle on this thing and pulling it back. So I think the next 2 or 3 years is going to be bad, but after that, I think we can grow through it. But the thing is that once we start to understand more about these medications and how they're, you know, breaking these cycles and breaking these issues like PTSD and stuff like that, I think we can start to learn a whole new era in neurology of how things are working. And this is
mm,
I feel this is the entry point step into all the psychedelics and the
yeah,
ayahuasca and the stuff like that, because the what the research is actually stating, I found this in two articles, was that the mystical point where you're out of body and you're doing that whole thing, they're like, if you can get in that state, it's almost every single time that you'll break your addictions. And they're like, there's something about that mystical state that is the
yeah,
key to this. And like that's just all they said, but that's the thing. So if you talk about that, you start talking about the quantum physics function and how the energy of people is all it's interchangeable for who you are, like those type of things.
yeah,
You can start having bigger conversations, and I think it leads to larger health functions all the way across the board. But it's definitely going to start here. My guess is we get big movement here. We're partnering with a group in Canada already, and so we can move through Canada, and we'll probably swing over to to Europe and kind of go through there as well, as soon as we start
mm,
proving the concept. But I
yeah,
think we're also going to see a lot more legalization of cannabis at least down to the medical piece for the whole all 50 states. So that's kind of where I see this going. But it's one of those deals where I cannot wait to start doing the videos of people who like the before and the afters, right?
no,
Like tell me about your addiction,
mm,
tell me about your PTSD, and then 5 days later interviewing the
yeah,
same person, they're like, it's gone. Like I can't
oh
wait
yeah.
to do that. It's gonna be so much fun.
That's super cool, man. Yeah, I think I do feel like because I'm not a guy that I'm not into either. I actually, thankfully, I don't know where it came from, but I don't have any like addictions or vices. It's except for my wife and kids. I'm addicted to those humans. Besides that, I'm good, man. But I've always looked at it and go like, why is it that it takes long for things to move? But I do feel the movement of like the cannabis stuff moving. I do feel I'm in California, so obviously it's moving here. I got friends in Colorado and Oregon, and so you see the transactions of like, how the business is moving. And I think when the nation at large sees how things are, they seem to be working properly, right? That you can expand that out, then hopefully it expands it more in the discussion. Even the fact that we have documentaries on some, these streaming platforms of this discussion, like it tells me by the feel of it, like we're open in the discussion. the world's kind of progressing in that way. So hopefully in the next 5 years, it's farther along than you could even picture, right? It's even better and more open and more discussed. Because shoot, man, 5 years is a long time in our world. I feel like from what things were 5 years ago to now, dude, it's a different world, dude.
It, it,
In a lot of
oh
ways.
man, so much happens in so little time. Like you put your head down for a little bit, you
Yeah.
turn back up, and you're like, what happened here? So yeah,
Easy.
it's been insane the last
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. That's a whole different discussion. We're not going to go that rabbit hole because I could go for a long time. But no, it's good though. I think that there's a discussion about that. I think that the fact that we're having a conversation, communication about it, I think that also some platforms are making the ability for things and not the fact that we're having discussions about the fact that certain language has been squashed or quelled by, we'll call it certain agencies. Those discussions allow it to happen less often, I think. And so with that, the discussions can rise and can flow better about exactly the things we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, as we've started to, as the authorities and the government have started kind of calming down on this, I think we've started to see a lot bigger stuff. Like, so for instance, the whole reason that cannabis is really has any legality at this point was from Charlotte's Web. So if you're not familiar with the story, so
On a story,
so
pig.
yeah, so little Charlotte dad was a firefighter, and she was having tons of seizures, and so they started giving her cannabis, and it knocked out all the seizures. Like 95% of her seizures were gone. And there's great research on why that happened and suppression of the temporal function, that whole thing. But then when he knew what was going on, they're just like, the little girl doesn't have seizures when she has the cannabis. Well, it was legal in Colorado at the time, but it was illegal, and I think they were in Massachusetts. And so they arrested the dad, and they're going to do the whole child protective custody thing. And there was such an outcry that they went ahead and let them leave and move to Colorado where it was legal. And so as the research started happening on Charlotte, the little girl, they found the strain that made the best impact on epilepsy was, they called it Charlotte's Web, because that was in her honor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought you meant like the actual story of Charlotte's Web, where it was like, just like a spider's like the little babe, the little pig at the store. That's what I thought. I'm like, this boy's about to go down. I was like, it's in the storybook. So this is all different.
Yeah, a little different. Yeah. But no, that's where people were like, oh, hey, hold on. This helps not only people, but little kids. And so that's when everything started everybody kind of turned around and was like, hold on, wait, what? And so that's how everything started to become legal. So the more times we show that this helps people, the easier it is to increase legality.
That makes sense. A lot of sense. Yeah, and then it's just a matter of time then. I guess you just keep doing these kind of podcasts, having the discussion, open it at large, and go why. When it gets to that level, when you're the head, man, what are you going to do? Like, because you think about it, when movement takes place, at some point in time, they find areas, to look at somebody and build. Like, what's your stance in terms of how you see yourself flowing into the future of it? Do you want to be the face for forever? Like, do you want to be the guy that leads the discussion on this? Is it something where you want to pass it off at some point? Only reason I ask is because that sometimes determines the amount of investment you may make at a sacrificial level of sometimes maybe career, conversations, friends. Because as you grow, man, as I've always noticed, people that grow with a cool idea, we never see what could come down the pipeline until we get to it. And those who hang on and like they lead, like it's always interesting to see how their lives change in time.
Well, this is just one of the things I do. I have a big giant, I have 14, 15 different soapboxes I talk on the medical space. So I talk about hormones all the time, and that's still a lightning rod. But
BP 157.
Oh, dude, like BP 157, TB 500 with a little testosterone, I couldn't fix ulcerative colitis without that. Like I couldn't reverse some of the brain stuff I have without that, that we treat without that. Really? Oh yeah. It's amazing stuff. But I will be the face of this as long as it's beneficial. If someone else comes along, someone younger and prettier, whatever, great. I don't care. It's what's going to drive this thing to its fruition. If we find somebody else, fantastic. He or she can take it, and I'll go yap about something else. I don't care. I just want to see this thing go as far as it can, because, like I said, I feel like if I don't, I feel like there's a point that I don't know where that is, and if I don't get it to that, like I failed. Like that's my purpose now is to do this, and so I need to do something big.
Write it out. Yeah, I wanted you to say that so people could hear that, right? Because I'm like a fly by night, hop on kind of thing. I get it, man. I think when you have something that feels good and it feels right, you got to take that thing and ride the train, man, to the end of the line. I loved hanging out with you, bro. What is the place I can send people to come get more information about you, what you do? Like, where's like links, a book? What I don't know if it's a book out, a website. Where would I send people?
So the book is Pillars of Wellness. You can get it on Amazon. And then
Awesome.
pillarsofwellness.com gets you to my site with the videos and the supplements and the blood work and stuff like that. And then
Yeah,
citizen-well.org is our charity website that we are building at the moment. So hopefully in a week or so it'll be up and ready to go.
I like it. Good to hear. When you guys listen to this, it's probably already live, so just know that. Last question. You can answer however you'd like to. If you want to interchange the words in your head, interchange it. But here's the question: what promise did God make to the world when He created you?
Oh, uh, that's tough. Um, I don't know that the gifts that I have are really, really tied into understanding physiological function and a giant passion of getting it help. So the only thing I can go with is that I'm here to be the doctor for as many people as I possibly can to help ensure the greatest health and wellness that we can throughout. That would be the only thing with the list of stuff that I do. That'd probably be the biggest piece.
I like it, man. I can tell you, it's going to spin on your head for another couple hours, just so you know. Like you could get, I guess you're the kind of person that hits you. Because I had a guy ask me at a coffee shop one time, and I was like, bro, it's a heavy question for the coffee shop, dog. Name was J.R. Reed. Good dude. And it spins in my head. Like, what was, because it's beyond like what I want to do. But like, I think we all have a connection what we're supposed to be doing. And
Yeah.
we're doing it typically, but like to know it's what you're supposed to do. So yeah, it's a good answer. Because I think at the end of the day, we all need that. And society has a need for people who can help us and fix our bodies. Those who dive into that area, like zombie apocalypse, I'm coming to your house. You know what I'm saying? Like something goes wrong, I'm gonna need you more. I'm gonna need the guy down the street who has cool scooters. So
Well,
let's
it
go
took
hang
me
out.
4 months to figure out how to fix COVID, and it takes me 3 weeks to fix diabetes. So, typically there's
Yeah,
things that as we get more information out, we're gonna be able to help more people. So, yeah, it's really
yeah,
that's kind of it. But there's a smoking awesome question. I am gonna sit there and think about that one for days. So I appreciate it.
yeah. Have some fun with that. Hey, welcome, man, and thank you for hanging out with us. Those of you guys who were here also with us, thanks for tuning in. If there's something that generally like helped you from this whole conversation, make sure you take note and apply those things. I will say, however, you got to go dial in and tune in. Unfortunately, we all know someone in our lives, likely or like a degree or two away from someone who could heavily benefit from the work that this man is doing. So connect those people. Like send a link, send a message, go check out the Pillars of Wellness. This is going to be somewhere if done right, like it's going to be a life changer and honestly a world changer in time when his work gets out to the world. So be part of that. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your awe shift moments. You can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks, Dr. Chalmers, signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Awe Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.